everybody on the call. There's quite a bit that I don't. Zach, you're looking good there, buddy. I really like that. I haven't seen you since the growth. Looks good. So I'm Joe. I'm gonna share my screen a few times. I'm gonna get on, get off because of the way we do it. We have the redirect through our website, and then also the MyCoast Direct. So I'm gonna speak to everybody about our ADV database, the national database that we've stood up with MyCoast. But before I do that, just kind of real brief background on what BoatUS has done, the foundation specifically has done, and why we've created the database. So 2023 BoatUS Foundation received a grant, $10 million from NOAA for three real components. One is for the removal of abandoned and derelict vessels, ADVs. You'll hear me say ADVs from here on out. It's the largest bucket that we have for the funding as well as for our project in general. We are essentially providing about almost $7.5 million of that $10 million to 10 different projects throughout the U.S., U.S. territories, and freely associated states for abandoned and derelict vessel removal. We have 3 in Alaska, we have 1 in Washington, 1 in Oregon, 1 in North Carolina, 1 in Louisiana, 1 in U.S. Virgin Islands, 1 in Guam, 1 in Maine, and that is it. I think that is all 10. We are anticipating roughly around 250 to 300 vessels being removed. A lot of that is dependent on value of bids and costs for the actual contractual removal of the vessels, especially now in today's current market. That can fluctuate significantly. The second facet of our grant is that we host basically a disposal solutions conference on ADVs, challenges, prevention programs, and all as it pertains to abandoned and derelict vessels, fiberglass, composite. How do we recycle it? What are the challenges and the solutions? And then the third facet is for us to create a national database so that we could inventory, kind of find out where the problems, see if there's any commonalities, track any prevention and or removal. A lot of states, most coastal states are the only states that had some type of inventory or tracking database for ADVs. And I would say 9 out of 10 or 90% of the states that did have it, it was not public facing, or only a certain piece of the database was public facing. Most of it was some type of spreadsheet of sorts, ArcGIS, that just never really was updated. There are 2 states specifically that have done a very good job of keeping a large database or an inventory that is more public facing than not, and that is Washington State and Florida. Florida uses an ArcGIS system, and then Washington State actually uses MyCoast along with ArcGIS and a basic spreadsheet of sorts. So we were tasked, NOAA wanted to create something that was full encompassing of every state, the territories, the freely associated states, so that we could see where the problems were. And so what we did was we went out, we researched, we figured out who was doing what. We did a lot of research on what states did and did not, and the systems they were in, the challenges, the pros, the cons. And MyCoast we kept hearing about. So we kept seeing what MyCoast had been doing in different states, and I don't know how many are familiar with MyCoast, but each state that they have, and even those that have different projects within the state, they call them, designate them projects. So we are the National Abandoned and Derelict Vessel Project through MyCoast. And so certain states were using them, like South Carolina was using them so that the public could do a lot of social science reporting in the sense of floods, king tides, storm events, lights out, creeks that might have had a slower flow, or just a variety of things. U.S. Virgin Islands was using them for abandoned and derelict vessels. Washington was using them for ADVs as well. So kind of met with few times and said, look, instead of us reinventing the wheel, is this something you might be able to create on a much larger scale And so they did. And so what you're getting ready to see is that product that we worked with them to have them fabricate. There's two ways. Really, there's three ways. In MyCoast directly, you can either log into MyCoast or you can download the mobile app MyCoast. And once you in the app, you have to create an account. On the desktop version, you can do it completely anonymous. You don't have to create an account. The other way, the third way, is to not log in, but to go online to BoatUS.org. And I am going to start sharing my screen now. So I think I can share. Joe, can you allow me to share my screen?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. Thought I saw it pop up and then it literally just went away. There we go. So I'm going to share this. Please tell me, give me a thumbs up, somebody, when you can see. All right. So BoatUS.org, you'll see initiatives here. And then one of the first things that pops up is the report abandoned and derelict boats. And abandoned and derelict vessels, we've got this is our landing page for it. It gives you some information about what we're doing, our database, why we've created a database essentially. You have the report an ADV button through here. So once I select this, it should not lead you to the MyCoast page, which it does not. So I'm going to stop sharing and then show you. Sharing this one. All right. So yes, you are seeing the right. So this is if you were to go to visit my page, you would see all the projects on the right. Top of the header, you'll see project. You see a drop down, you'll see the dates, and I'll tell you that here shortly. But when you first are taken to the reporting page, this is our disclaimer and our acknowledgement form, basically saying that this is not something that's going to necessarily lead to a removal or lead to a removal immediately. All that's it's provided in those disclaimers. It also provides an immediate hazard environmental concern statement that states that if there is some type of imminent danger of sorts or navigational hazard, that you could click this and it'll take you to the U.S. Coast Guard's areas of responsibility, so you could reach out to them immediately, which we're not going to do. So I'm just going to exit out and show you. So this is the page. It gives you a little bit of information, kind of the funding statement / project statement, as we are bound to do. You can report a vessel from the middle of the page. You can top of the page have this function in a variety of locations, but you'll see that there are 1,101 vessels and counting. We stood this up in November. I will tell you that over 200 of the vessels are vessels that have been reported through this database, through the National ADV Reporting Project. But there are about 800 vessels, around 800 vessels that were previously reported in the Washington project, the U.S. Virgin Island project, and a couple other smaller projects when they were underway for various states. We asked them to include those, anything that was still valid or listed as an ADV, so that we could a true screenshot of where ADVs were. So our goal was to have 20 to 25 vessels reported per month for the first year, and we are on track to beat that. We are already at 200, and I think we're 210, 211 to be exact, in 7 months. So it's pretty good. We're literally getting ready to do a hard launch, a lot of media around it, since we're gearing up, it's warming up to boating season. So we think that we're going to see a lot more reports. So you can do a variety of, you can investigate by scrolling in, and we're just going to go into Virginia here and just see what's been reported in Virginia. And I don't know if you can click on one of these. You'll see that you can view full report. This looks like it was reported in Gloucester, Virginia. I am going to select it. It might not, and it won't. So I'm going to stop and reshare. All right. So then when you want to look at a specific report, you can see You can see information about it, where it's at, what type of habitat, and we're gonna navigate through these fields here shortly, but it'll provide you with a map of where it's at. You can even scroll in a little bit more. This mapping system is through Google, but it provides lat and long of where it's at specifically, and this is basically the reporting piece. One thing I will report about the information you're seeing here. Anybody can view this. You will have the option, if you are logged in, if you create an account and log in, or if you're in the mobile app, there will be an option for you to post a comment down here. So you see where it says logged in to post a comment. So those comments are, hey, this floated, this moved, I think this has been removed. And then the administrators on the side, they're able to set them internal. But we're going to get back out of here. I'm going to eliminate that and then share one more time. So say you wanted to report a vessel. You're on the water, you're in the mobile app, which is very, very, very similar. It's like 99.9% similar to the desktop version, but you wanted to report a vessel that you are aware of. So you're going to get brought to the terms of use disclaimer again, where you must select that you acknowledge. And it's going to navigate you through a field. So you can choose a file, an image. If you have an image on your phone, you can choose it. Once you select this, the metadata that is embedded into the image is going to populate as far as the time, date of sighting, when you took that picture, all of that. If you take that picture, say 6 months ago, if you have taken that picture 6 months ago and then decided you wanted to upload it, it should populate the data from that day that you took the image. Occasionally, if like you send that image to a computer, to an email, and then save that on a disk, or I say disk, save it to a file, sometimes it selects the data from when you saved it. But once you don't have to select an image for this purpose. I'm going to kind of navigate through. And now it's going to run you through fields. You'll see which is required. If you were to select yes, there's a safety concern. It just happened. Somebody is swimming away from the boat. 2 people are holding on to it. Hopefully you call 911 as well. But here you see a pop down that shows up, 1-800-424, the response center number for the Coast Guard. We felt it was important to, in a lot of other databases where you can report vessels, if you selected yes for any of the immediate concerns of safety, navigation, pollution, or sensitive habitat, it didn't allow you to report the vessel. It basically prompted you to call and notify somebody. We only want you to call and notify somebody if there is one of these major concerns, but we also still wanted to capture the information and the data, report the vessel as being an ADV. So for the purpose of this, I'm just going to select no for everything. And all of these messages essentially are the same. And for like a sensitive habitat, it kind of gives you an idea of like where is it at? Is it on a bulkhead, coral reef, kelp forest, etc. And then here for gasoline, it doesn't provide any information for you to select. But so no for everything. We're going to navigate to the next field. And now that my computer was running fast, it's now going to run slower. Vessel name, I'm going to say the boats. It's a recreational vessel. It's a wood hull. It's less than 16 foot, color green. Don't know the make and model because it's mostly submerged. Can't see registration. Can't see expiration on it. Whole idea, can't see additional information. We're just going to put partially submerged. Next. And then vessel position, it's partially submerged, as you heard me say. It's mostly intact from what I can tell. Challenging as far as a removal or getting to the vessel. It's not secured because it's just sitting on subaqueous. And then it's going to literally populate my house. So you can see it picks up where your location is based on Google satellites. You can move this pin anywhere. I want to show you that, and I'll explain here in a second with Florida. I'm going to zoom all the way out so I can get to Florida. Not too much. Florida, and I'll explain why in a second. I move this to Florida, you're going to see this little message pop up. Report this AD Florida Wildlife. I conservation law enforcement number. But as soon as I decide I want to relocate this to another state, it disappears. I'm going to go back, and then I'm submitting on behalf myself, and then I'm going to submit this. And then basically you're prompted, it gives you, the option to either get back to the home page. I can click here to provide a survey or any information on the actual database. If you are logged in, if you create an account and you log in, once you submit your report, you will get an email back from MyCoast with your report number, and it allows you to log back into that actual report so you can make notes. And I will show you, and it's probably not, it is going to take me. So it takes me back to the home page. And then at that point, it's not populating my vessel yet. Let's see if I can get it to, yeah, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes at a time for it to recognize that there's a vessel that's been populated. There's that. You heard me say Florida. Florida has a robust program for ADV prevention and or removal to some degree. But they have roughly 900 fish and wildlife conservation officers that not only do things as it pertains to fish and wildlife and conservation, but they also are responsible for investigating and ground truthing ADVs that are reported. They have four. The state is divided into 4 zones when it comes to FWC. In the zones, there are 3 total call centers, very similar to 911 call centers. You saw that 888 number. If someone sees an ADV, they call the 888 number. They report an ADV. Just like 911, the dispatcher is trained to run you through a series of questions to determine if it really is an at-risk or an ADV, or if you're an upset neighbor not liking your neighbor's boat color and you just want to, be angry and report your neighbor for something that really isn't an ADV. So they run you through a series of questions. They determine that it is relevant and it's a valid report. They then dispatch to one of the 3 or one of the 4 zones. And then within 2 weeks, whoever is responsible for that area, that officer is responsible for ground truthing that vessel, goes out, looks at it. If he can get on board, he does, and basically identifies if it is an at-risk vessel, works with the vessel owner to determine what are solutions for them to now remove from the at-risk designation, or is it truly abandoned, or is it a derelict vessel? And then what happens at that point is they then re-enter back into the system so that everybody in Florida that works for FWC, it can be identified and you can see what the status is of that vessel. So that's why Florida wanted us to provide that phone number for them to call once they reported something in Florida. And I'm not logged in, so I am going to stop sharing for 1 second and log in and then show you how we're able to kind of review ports on the back end. And I'm just going to give me 1 second. All right, I am going to. So again, I logged in. It takes me back to the terms of use. And you can see, instead of it saying log in, it says my account. So I can see my reports that I submitted or view, edit, log out, whatever. But if you go to ADV removal project, you search reports. And this will take you to where you can look at information specifically for these reports. So what it's doing is populating the map. But here on the left side, you'll see all the fields you can navigate through. So abandoned boats nationwide. So anything that might have gone through, Washington or whatnot, there's listed in the abandoned boat section. And anything that might come through this website specifically is the nationwide ADV. We'll just select here, and we'll do You can see all the basically the cities and states, which is a little bit more. So we're going to do all localities. I'm going to do, let's do Virginia. And what it'll do is it relates all of the vessels that have been reported in Virginia. And you can see, so I'm an administrator, and honestly, Joe is really getting ready to become an administrator. You can see that I can set this report internal, so you don't see it. I can make it public and featured so it brings it to the main page. I can delete it. We don't want to delete anything because we want to show how many vessels we might have had as an ADV versus what we have now. But you can basically, we'll check this one out. I'm going to stop sharing one more time and look at this beautiful. So now you can see that this was reported in Chesapeake. You can see that at the report, it was reported at the report time was at 9 a.m. at high tide. You can see based on the tide fluctuations here, you can see basically where that data is being pulled from. You can see the wind speed, all that. It's based on the time of report here. You can download media, like if you wanted to download this report, and I think it's probably going to take me. You can see everything that was submitted in the actual reports. Additional information: lifeboat appears to be in a safe state of disrepair. You can see on the map where it's located. You can see that's logged in as Michael Moore. You can see basically, me as a reporter, as an admin, what information I can provide, comments that can be provided. If I downloaded this, it would take me to a separate page that would then allow me to download essentially these fields. The idea for the download is for multiple different vessels, and say the state of Virginia as a whole, or I could download all of the reports from Virginia, or really any designation of the fields that I decide. So, and that is pretty much it in a nutshell. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it back over to you, Joe. And if there's anything you want me to hit on or discuss, I can. I just thought that it was more important to show you kind of how to navigate through the database.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yes, sir.
I do have one question real quick.
Yes,
when
sir.
you were saying, what was it? I wrote it down. Oh, if there's an environmental emergency and it stops the report and says to call the Coast Guard, was BoatUS, what did you say about that? Does it completely stop the report?
If you come across a vessel, it will not stop the report. You are still able to navigate through the fields and report the vessel. The idea for us, and I will answer that in detail. The idea was for that the boater, a general recreational boater who is out on the water, who might go on the water 6 times a year, comes across an abandoned derelict vessel, that we wanted them to be able to use MyCoast, take a picture of it, and within a minute to 2 minutes, submit a report, right? Because once you start navigating through fields and it takes you 9 minutes or 7 minutes, you kind of lose interest. And most people, I think it's like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, most people decide that they don't want to do it anymore. I submitted one that took me 57 seconds to do. Now, granted, I already had MyCoast app on my phone. I was already logged in. I was able to snap the photo, and the information went right in. If I were to come across one, say a vessel that hit a pile, somebody was holding on to the edge of the pile, and fuel was leaking everywhere. Now, obviously, I would call 911 first. I know to call the response center. 911 would also probably do the same. Eventually, with 5 to 10 minutes, Coast Guard would be contacted as well with the information that I provided. But I would also call the Coast Guard response center and relay to them what I was seeing. After that, then I would take the time at some point in time to say, hey, there's an ADV. Let me submit it. Even if I selected yes, right now there is an emergency. There's a safety issue, as well as there's an environmental hazard because fuel's leaking. Even if I put yes, it would just prompt me to call the 188 number, but it would still allow me to navigate through all the fields and submit that report.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Melody? Sorry, Melody, you gotta unmute yourself.
Good, wrong part. Thank you, Michael. And I've got two questions. At the beginning, I think you said that the grant money was going to allow you to recover 200 to 300 vessels. And is that true? And then the second question is, have you gotten very far as recycling the material?
So to your first question, yes. So the way to kind of break down how the projects, the grantees were selected, we had 97 letters of interest, basically a smaller version of an application apply for the funding. We went through and looked at all the basics of did anybody not answer questions? Okay, we eliminated those. Did anybody provide information that we asked for? Eliminated. We got them down to about 53. And so we requested 53 full proposals of the 97. Of the 53, we ended up getting 49 back. 49 submitted full proposals, a lengthier application, more detail. At that point, we went through with fine tooth and comb and made sure that all the questions were answered. And then also specific questions, if they provided more detail to those questions as provided by NOAA. And then we were able to get down to 23 applications. At that point, we turned over those 23 applications to a third-party team that it was comprised of a variety of environmental individuals, very smart, NOAA, government, non-government, and they reviewed and they selected their top 5 choices each. And then after that, we all met. And initially, we thought we were going to provide 2 rounds of removal projects. We thought we would do one, get them underway. A year and a half later, we would do a second round of funding and then have a second round of projects going. Given the January 20th, 2025 administration change, it was suggested to us that we take all the money up front right away. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, get it all. And so at that point, we decided we were going to fund as much as we could. 10 projects were decided. In those 10, it looked as if best case scenario, there were going to be 320 vessels that were going to be removed based on their application. Fast forward to the current time and day, based on RFQs and RFPs that went out for each of those locations, states, localities, whatever, and the increase in prices for a variety of things, that number has come down. And our largest project, a project that's going to remove the most vessels in one area, Louisiana, is somewhere around 100 vessels. Initially, they were going to remove 106 vessels is what their target number was. Each one has been identified. It's been run through environmental compliance, NOAA, the permitting process. That was an 11-month process for us. And then once all that came back, best management practices, basically guidelines on what they can and can't do on how to remove, were provided. And they're in the process of right now working through those first initial removals, getting contractors. Some of those prices were elevated because of current, things that are happening in global, politics, geopolitics, fuel, all that, right? Cost of living in general just increases, so prices go up. So right now our number is around 250 vessels. Some locations, for example, we have 3 in Alaska. 2 of the locations in Alaska are extremely remote to get there. You can only get there by a little small plane or boat. And they can only do a removal basically in summertime because of the weather. So they have smaller numbers. They have 12 or 15 vessels, 20 vessels. So it fluctuates per project. All equally important. We want to get them out of the environment the way they are. Some have more, some have less. And then to your second question, when it comes to recycling, it's a very complicated answer. Short. The U.S. has not made at scaled versions means to recycle fiberglass when it comes to fiberglass vessels. Scale it down, smaller versions. There are methods that people can do. That is a huge challenge. You bring up a probably one of the most, besides it being an ADV in the water and posing an immediate issue, then getting it out and how do you dispose of it is the second main challenge. Landfills don't take composite in some cases. If they do take composite material, fiberglass boats, you got to get it down to a 2 foot by 2 foot square. And you know what recreational boat owner can demo their boat 2 foot by 2 foot, right? So it poses, you know, a little bit of a challenge. How do you get it off your trailer and get it into the landfill? You know, there's all these smaller logistics things. The recycling piece, they are working on it. That's part of our, you know, our disposal solutions conference that we're hosting in December. We're trying to bring all the people in the room that are doing the work and those that have the funding and the investors, the science behind it, and try to say, hey, we can do this. It is being done. It is being done in Europe. Europe is far more advanced when it comes to making the attempt and actually having viable solutions for recycling fiberglass and composite. It's slowly making its way here. It just hasn't, you know, the biggest piece of it is the circular economy. Finding the funding to do something, and then what do you do with it after you've done something with it, and who wants to buy that, and on and on and on. So.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Don, go ahead.
Any work on Lake Mead, and also is anybody chopping up the fiberglass to put in concrete?
So the first question is, any vessels reported on Lake Mead or on Lake Mead? Is that what I understand?
There's boats in Lake Mead. I mean, they're on YouTube. Since the lake's so low, and that's federal land, I guess.
But it's still, yeah. To my understanding and what I have seen, nobody has reported anything in Lake Mead. So if you know anybody that knows where those vessels are, or if you know, we would love to see them on. The idea for us is to take this all the way to senior leadership. And I say senior leadership, I mean congressional individuals, and say, we have a problem. We need to do something about it. Help us, right? What are some solutions? So Lake Mead, no, not that I know of, not that I can see here in the map, in the reports. So I encourage anybody who has information on ADVs to report if they can. And then what was the second question? I think it was.
I think you can chop up fiberglass and use it in concrete.
Yeah. So there is some work. There's the debate of that term being used, recycling, and then doing so with fiberglass for concrete. There a lot of individuals separate that out and saying it's not really recycling, it's really waste to energy. But yes, they are, in my mind, that's a semantic, right? That they are using fiberglass. Washington is specifically, I know that. Some other states are as well. But basically what they're doing is they are, there's a tub grinder of sorts where they get into basically a federal regulated pellet of sorts that then is used to either go into concrete, so they don't have to use virgin glass or fibers, or it's also used as hog fuel to fire concrete kilns to make new concrete. Every state has a different burn permit regulation. Some states, it's overseen, I believe, by EPA. Some states can do certain things. Some states can't do certain things based on air quality. So that is something that they're looking at. You know, and there's methods. I'm not going to go into detail because it's boring, and I'm a science geek. So, but there's a variety of methods that can really separate out the resin, the fibers, decontaminate them, and then they can reuse the fibers and the resin of sorts in a variety of products, from athletic tapes to fiberglass bicycle frames they're doing in Europe. But there is a company, I'm not going to say too much, that is working on a patent right now and developing a $2.5 million machine that can eat 4 boats, 4 30-foot vessels in an hour. And they are using it to supplement sodium metasilicate, which is in washing detergents, which is in soaps, which is in sheetrock. So instead of, finding that material, that new material, they're reusing fiberglass and trying to utilize that in a variety of other commodities, should I say. So,
yeah, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but I don't know if wind turbine blades are the same composition as boat hulls.
yes, sir. And that's exactly, that's what has driven a lot of the conversation was, well, we know we can do this with wind turbine blades. Why can't we do this with fiberglass? And that's what this company started doing with the metasilicate, is they have been doing that with the wind turbine blades for years. And they're the ones who said, well, we need to supplement this. We need more. We're ramping up. Our operation is ramping up. So we need more material so that we can create this. One of the challenges that we have seen is with wind turbine blades, those towers, the poles itself, each unit is has a distinct inventory number, and they know when that wind turbine blade is going to go offline, or when they're going to rotate out the blades or the motor or whatever it is. And so they have an idea of, like, in 5 years, these 50 towers are going to need 150 blades are going to come down, so we can send them here. And then 6 years, another 150, and so forth. With vessels, you don't know, 1 here, you get 5 here, you get 20. The work involved in removing varies based on what type of abandoned or derelict vessel it is. Something that you can trailer, easy, great. But something that you've got to lift up out of the mud with bags, or you've got to, clamshell out, and then you got to get on a barge, and the barge has got to wait for high tide. It could take 4 or 5 days just to remove one vessel. So it varies. And so that, again, back to the circular economy, them not knowing when they're going to get their supply of fiberglass boats, they can't rely on it to make their product. So that's one of the challenges that we're trying to show, that there is some states like Florida, the Gulf Coast in general, Texas, Louisiana, you can have a town that doesn't have any ADVs, and then a hurricane comes through and you have of them in a matter of 2 days. And that's real. That's Louisiana. There's vessels that we're getting ready to pull out in Louisiana that date back to Hurricane Katrina. And then there are some that are in Florida that we know that Fort Myers and the areas north of Fort Myers, they allegedly have 500 vessels that were created from one of the storms last year or the year before. So you can see that's a great supply if you can get them all. But you can't rely on hurricanes to generate 500 vessels, right? So,
Thank you.
I think Zach's got his hand up. Yeah.
I was just going to add on to the cement conversation. So what we ran into a few years ago is that we only have one cement manufacturing facility in Virginia. It's out in Roanoke. So there's the matter of getting that fiberglass 5 hours across the state to potentially be used as fuel at the plant. And there's, as Mike touched on, there's a whole host of environmental justice issues that come along with shipping that across and then putting it into a factory in a lower socioeconomic area in a region of Virginia that is financially hit harder than the rest of the state.
Yeah. This is just briefly, I learned last week that Europe, not necessarily with the concrete piece, but that logistic challenge that they were having to get vessels. So France, for example, has various locations that they allow vessel turn-ins, where you can just get rid of your vessel in the sense they're going to dispose of it. It's going to be recycled. 5 to 7, maybe more locations throughout, but they were having some of the smaller locations. They needed a safer way of storing the vessels that they were basically mulching. Okay, and so and then okay, once we store it, there's that environmental hazard. Well, what happens if it rains or whatever, it leaks? So they basically devised a plan where they get it down to this fiber or this pellet, and then they put them in almost like super sacks, but they're waterproof sacks of sort that are squares. And essentially you can get 1 boat to 2 boats in this giant super sack. And then they put it on a flatbed and they stack a number of them and they transport it. They wait till they get a large amount and then they transport them to the larger facility. So it was a little bit more efficient way of transporting, storing. And again, I did know that it came with a slew of environmental issues as far as the transportation, but I didn't get into that, not yet.
So, Mike, you said that there's going to be a big push this summer about the My Coast report form. What would be the best way for us to help you do that?
What I'll do is when we, I can provide you the link. You can send the link out, and you know, we can, if there's a flyer that can be created. You know, we've tried to cover a lot of ground already with the clean, especially in Virginia, but also with the national group, the Clean Marinas program, marinas, ports, you know, yacht clubs, any of that sort, those that, you know, that are boating locations in the industry in general. We're just trying to get the word out that the data exists. You know, Virginia Coastal Zone Management, which is a part of DEQ, they are going to be promoting it because they were using, and Joe, you help me here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to try to regurgitate what I've learned from you guys. They were using basically an Excel spreadsheet to kind of keep their inventory. And for the next 4.5 years, our contract with My Coast is for 5 years. The goal is at the end of that 5-year period that the states or the localities within states can then take over the database, and they can, you know, administrate their database how they would like. It's already been created. It's already been built. It's running. It's got reports in it. The idea is not to reinvent the wheel. So Virginia is going to use a QR code. They're going to post information online. I think there's going to be flyers that go up that basically direct any reports to go into the My Coast. The QR code that's going to be reported or created so that it directly links to the My Coast. So when they go to, you know, in Virginia, when they scan this QR code, it's just going to take them to the My Coast page. So those are ways really can help spread the word about the database. But yeah, any way we can spread the word is the best way.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see. Maybe CCM will develop the flyer, but someone will do that. We'll get a flyer.
Yeah.
Do you have any language for like social media posts?
I do, and I can get that over to you. We have a variety of toolkits that we use to promote it. So I'll get you over all of it, and you can decide which verbiage you would like to use, images, verbiage, all of that. So
great. Yeah, I can add those into the links in the notes for this meeting and send it out afterwards.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joe, very much.
April.
Sorry. Couple of, well, smaller things. A technical question for the mobile app. Does that give you, when you have a photo on your phone, it accesses the photos on your phone basically to be able to upload the photo through the mobile app?
Yes, ma'am. It'll probably, and I cannot recall because I was on My Coast already. You know, usually in those apps, you get a request that says, you know, this app is requesting your photos. You know, you can provide limited access only when using or full access. And then at that point, it'll have access, depending on your phone, to your images. And then you still have to upload the image. Basically, when you get to the image section, that very first part piece, you'll need to get into your images, select the image, and then it should populate in there. And you can add multiple images. You don't have to, it's not just one. You can add 30 if you wanted.
Okay, gotcha. I forgot my other question, so let me think about it and I'll get back to you.
No problem. We have a few minutes still. I did just want to say that Mike had actually emailed me and asked to present about this at the VP3N. And as you know, we're always looking for monthly speakers. So if you ever have a topic you want to talk about, just feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat and we can get you scheduled. So thank you for doing that, Mike. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I will say that for those that might not have heard of ADVs until today or recently just heard of ADVs, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of boats that have been dumped or abandoned. It is becoming a very prominent topic within, you know, all governmental systems, from, you know, our federal government all the way down to our locality. It's becoming an issue in some states more so than others, but as, you know, fiberglass vessels reach their end of life, which are, we're coming on, if not hundreds of thousands, at least thousands of those vessels in the next 5 years or so. You're going to start seeing more and more. You're going to start seeing more information about it. And I say hundreds of thousands to thousands because, you know, Florida alone has more than 1 million registered boaters. You know, that's, again, just registered boaters, and that's just boaters that are using their boats, not to mention the boats that are sitting on trailers behind grandma and grandpa's house, or, you know, uncle's house, or whomever. Boats that are inherited, boats that are sitting at a mooring slip that no one knows. We're going to see the problem persist and become a little bit greater in the next 5 to 10 years for certain. So that's why it's imperative for us as a humanity to figure out something that we're going to do with fiberglass boats. They're big littered items, right? So, April.
Yeah, I remembered the other one. So are you all getting in contact with DWR too? Because I think, don't they have like boater safety courses or something along those lines to get that, you know, the My Coast out during those types of interactions with boaters?
Yes, ma'am. So that is a whole huge, to your question, yes. BoatUS is the official boater safety course in Virginia. Specifically, they put the boater safety course together for DWR. Boating law administrators, the BLAs as we refer to them within each state, they basically oversee and dictate what the course is about. So we are working with the one that will allow it to get a slide or two, some information in those courses about what to do when you see ADVs. Certain states don't want it in there. Certain states do want it in there. So, but there's a lot of work that goes with it in the sense of what it takes to get that approved. It has to go all the way up to the General Assembly essentially, and then back down. So there's a lot involved. You would think it would be easier, but I have learned over the course of the year that it's not just something that I can say, hey, put it in there and it's done. It's got to be approved and signed off on a variety of different levels.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
It is a very big task, and we appreciate your work on it, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you speaking on it.
Thanks again for being here. We really appreciate hearing about it, and it's a really cool program. So it's exciting to have that push coming soon, and we can start telling people about it and getting some ADV reports. Kind of good and bad there. We want to know about them, but we don't want them to be there. Thank you all for being here today. Hope to see you next month, on the third Tuesday of next month. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Good one, y'all.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.